You feel everything, more than most people ever will. But you don't always show it. Your emotions run deep like the roots of a tree hidden beneath the soil, invisible yet powerful. You can walk into a room and immediately sense the tension, the unspoken pain, the underlying energy. It's like you have emotional radar. And yet, while others react impulsively or wear their emotions on their sleeves, you choose stillness. It's not that you're detached. It's quite the opposite. You care more. You notice more. You absorb more. But you've learned that not every emotion deserves a reaction, and not every moment requires your energy. Over time, you've developed the rare ability to separate your response from your reaction. You've discovered that calmness is not weakness, it's maturity. In situations where others might lose their temper, break down, or spiral, you hold the line, you take a breath, you observe, you sit in the tension. People often misunderstand this. They assume you don't care or you're unaffected. But what they don't see is the silent battle inside you, the way you wrestle with emotions before deciding what's worth expressing. This internal strength gives you clarity, and in many cases, it protects your peace. Your calmness is your armor. It guards your mind from being hijacked by panic and your heart from being hijacked by noise. When the world is in chaos, people turn to you, not because you're loud or commanding, but because your presence speaks of control, grounding, and quiet assurance. You make others feel safe simply by being stable. You've also learned the difference between emotional sensitivity and emotional regulation. Just because you feel everything doesn't mean you act on everything. You sit with your emotions, listen to them, and then choose your steps wisely. This level of self-awareness is rare. It's what sets you apart. In relationships, this trait makes you the anchor. You can read between the lines. You pick up on shifts in tone, body language, or silence. You understand when someone's hurting even when they say, "I'm fine." And while you may not always voice it, you know. That knowing becomes your gift and also your burden. But here's the beauty of it. You're not reactive, you're responsive. You're not cold, you're composed. Your strength lies not in how much you show, but in how much you understand. The calm you carry is a reflection of the emotional depth you've had to navigate, often alone. And that depth, while invisible to many, is what makes your personality so rare. So, when people wonder how you stay calm in the storm, let them wonder. Your stillness is not silence, it is strategy. Your peace is not passive, it is power. You feel deeply, yes, but you've mastered the art of emotional strength that is not common, that is rare. Absolutely! Here's the expanded version of key point 2. You crave meaning over attention. Written powerfully in a motivational tone, avoiding fluff, and without repeating the phrase. You have an extremely rare personality. The word count is approximately 500 words. You crave meaning over attention, expanded 500 words in a time when the world is obsessed with visibility. You seek depth. While many chase applause, you search for purpose. You're not moved by likes, shares, or spotlights. They might offer temporary satisfaction, but they don't feed your soul. What truly drives you is meaning. Something real, something lasting. You don't show up to be seen. You show up to make a difference. You're not here to impress anyone. You're here to impact lives, to leave something behind that matters. This is why shallow conversations drain you. Small talk feels empty. Performance-driven spaces exhaust you. You want more than attention. You want alignment with your core. Your conversations are intentional. You'd rather talk about pain, purpose, dreams, and healing than gossip, trends, or entertainment. You value connection over performance, substance over style. You aren't interested in putting on a mask for the world just to be liked. Authenticity matters more than approval. When people offer you opportunities just to be seen, you hesitate. Not because you doubt yourself, but because you're careful. You ask questions like, what's the purpose? What's the message? Who does it serve? If the answer is only to shine brighter, you'll likely walk away because your soul isn't for sale. You're not here to decorate the stage. You're here to build something with meaning. This often confuses others. They may label you as distant, low energy, or even uninterested. But in reality, your standards are just higher. You refuse to give your energy to what doesn't matter. You can sense the difference between real and fake from a mile away, and you're not willing to trade your peace for popularity. You understand that attention is a drug and many are addicted to it. But you've detoxed from that need. You've found a deeper drive, one that doesn't need clapping to feel complete, one that's rooted in values, not vanity. Your silence is deliberate. Your boundaries are sacred. Your time is invested, not spent. When you speak, it's with conviction. When you act, it's with clarity. And when you care, it's with your whole heart. Not because you want people to look, but because you want something to grow, even in your creative work, your art, your business, your leadership. You focus on legacy over likes. You measure success by how much meaning it carries, not how much noise it makes. You understand that doing something meaningful may not always be loud, but it will always be remembered. This isn't an easy path. It's slower, quieter, often lonelier, but it's honest. And at the end of the day, you can rest with peace knowing you didn't chase the crowd. You followed your calling. Because meaning will last long after the lights go out. Attention fades, but purpose doesn't. Would you like the third key point expanded next? Or would you prefer a YouTube description and hashtags for the full script? Certainly, below is the fully expanded version of key point 2. You crave meaning over attention. Written in a clear, motivational, and rich tone, approximately 500 words with no fluff and no use of the word "hout." You crave meaning over attention, 500 words. You live in a world that constantly screams for attention, louder, flashier, faster. But your spirit isn't moved by noise. It's drawn to depth. You're not interested in applause. You're searching for alignment. What speaks to your soul isn't the size of the crowd, but the sincerity of the message. You don't do things just to be seen. In fact, being in the spotlight without purpose feels empty. It doesn't excite you. It drains you. Your motivation doesn't come from being noticed. It comes from doing something that matters. You'd rather make a quiet impact than gain loud approval. Many people confuse this with a lack of ambition, but that's far from the truth. You are ambitious, but your ambition is rooted in values. You want to build something meaningful, not just something viral. You'd rather work on something that transforms a life than perform for people who forget tomorrow. This shows up in how you connect with others. You don't enjoy surface-level conversations. You're not one for gossip or small talk that leads nowhere. You thrive in meaningful dialogue, the kind that challenges, heals, and awakens something real. When someone starts speaking with depth, your ears perk up. That's your language. You're not moved by the latest trends unless they connect with truth. You don't jump on every opportunity just because it's popular. You ask deeper questions. Does this align with who I am? Will this serve others? Is it true to my purpose? If it doesn't meet those standards, you quietly walk away. No explanation needed. Even your silence has intention. You don't speak just to fill a gap. You speak to bring clarity, to offer truth, to build something worth remembering. And if that means fewer people hear you, that's a price you're willing to pay. In a culture where people chase relevance, you chase meaning. You're willing to walk the longer road if it leads somewhere real. You're willing to be misunderstood if it means you're staying true to your core. You understand that not all applause is worth chasing, and not all attention is a reward. You're drawn to people who live the same way, those who choose impact over image, substance over show. These are the connections you value. These are the people you trust. You recognize each other instantly because the conversation doesn't stay on the surface. It dives straight into purpose, growth, and truth. You may not always be the loudest in the room. You may even go unnoticed at times. But when you speak, people listen. When you act, it creates a ripple. Because what you do carries weight, and what you say carries wisdom. You don't need a stage to feel fulfilled. You just need truth, purpose, and the freedom to be real. That's what fuels you. That's what drives you. Not attention, but meaning. Would you like the third point? You think differently, radically, expanded next. Absolutely! Here's the expanded version of key point 3. You think differently, radically. Written in a motivational and insightful tone, around 500 words, without fluff and without the word out. You think differently, radically, 500 words. You don't just accept things as they are. You question, you challenge, you reimagine. Your mind doesn't follow the blueprint the world hands you. It draws its own map, while others walk straight lines laid out by tradition or expectation. You take the road no one else sees until you walk it. You think in layers, not just headlines. You look beneath the surface, around the corners, behind the curtain. What most people overlook is exactly what catches your eye. You don't think differently just to be different. You think differently because your mind is wired to seek truth, not conformity. This trait has followed you for as long as you can remember. As a child, you may have asked the questions others didn't know how to answer. As an adult, you see systems, rules, and patterns, and you ask why they exist in the first place. You don't rebel for rebellion's sake, but because you see possibilities others don't. You see gaps in logic, cracks in the system, opportunities in the chaos. When someone tells you, this is just the way it is, your response is never automatic agreement. Instead, you pause and ask, but what if it isn't? What if there's another way? That one question has become the root of every solution you've found, and every idea you've birthed, and every path you've chosen that defied the crowd. This way of thinking doesn't always make life easier. It can be isolating. People misunderstand you, or worse, dismiss you. They assume you're difficult, too intense, too deep, or simply unrealistic. But you've come to understand that originality often feels like loneliness at first. What's different is rarely accepted immediately. You're not interested in echo chambers. You're drawn to tension, contradiction, and growth. Your ideas often unsettle the room, not because they're wrong, but because they force people to think harder, dig deeper, and confront what they've never questioned. And that's not something everyone is ready for. Still, you keep thinking. You keep building. You keep imagining what could be. You see limitations as invitations, not to stop, but to innovate. While others wait for permission, you create your own opening. You're not restricted by the current model. You're already designing the next one. This mindset makes you a visionary, a strategist, a creative force. You're the one who sees bridges where others see walls. You turn confusion into clarity and obstacles into blueprints. You're not afraid to be wrong, because every wrong answer brings you closer to the right one. In a world that rewards sameness, you choose originality. You don't copy what works. You question why it works. You don't blend in. You break ground. Because for you, thinking differently isn't just a mindset, it's a calling. And with it, you're not just moving through life, you're reshaping it. There's something about you that draws people in, and it's not something you force. It's not about your appearance, your words, or your status. It's something deeper, a presence, a peace, a quiet strength that doesn't demand attention but still receives it. You don't walk into a room trying to impress. You simply show up as yourself, and somehow that's enough. While others exhaust themselves performing for approval, you remain rooted in authenticity. You have nothing to prove. And it's that confidence, not loud, not boastful, but calm and centered, that people notice. You've probably been told things like, "There's just something about you," or "You make me feel safe," or "I don't know why, but I feel like I can trust you." That's because your energy is real. It doesn't manipulate or seek validation. It simply exists, grounded in who you are, and it invites others to do the same. Your presence gives others permission to breathe, to be vulnerable, to let their guard down. You don't chase connection, you create space for it. And that's rare. It's not your words that make the biggest impact. It's your energy, your silence, your stillness. Even when you say little, your presence speaks volumes. This kind of influence can't be manufactured. You don't follow trends or mimic personas. You don't need to post every move you make to feel seen. You're content with being understood by the few instead of being noticed by the many. And because you're not trying to be anything but yourself, you attract those who are tired of pretending. People are drawn to you not for entertainment, but for alignment. You remind them of something they've forgotten, what it feels like to be real. You reflect peace in a world full of pressure. You reflect clarity in a culture of confusion. And you do it without effort, because it's who you are. This doesn't mean everyone will like you. In fact, your authenticity may unsettle those who rely on pretense. But the ones who are meant for your path will find you, and they will stay. Not because you convinced them, but because you inspired them. You don't need to sell yourself. You don't need to fit into someone else's mold. What makes you attractive is that you're not trying to be. You are comfortable in your own presence. You own your flaws, your story, your truth. And in doing so, you silently invite others to do the same. This kind of magnetism cannot be copied. It comes from living in alignment with your values, from showing up consistently as your true self. You don't shine because you want to be seen. You shine because you refuse to hide. And that light, quiet as it may be, always draws others in. Would you like to continue with key point 5 next? You're misunderstood often. You said, expand the 5 key point on the 500 words without how-t. ChatGPT said certainly. Below is the expanded version of key point 5. You're misunderstood often. Written in a clear, powerful tone with emotional depth and around 500 words, without fluff and without using the word how-t. You're misunderstood often. 500 words. You've probably felt it your whole life. That quiet disconnect. You enter conversations, environments, even relationships, and something always feels slightly off. It's not because you're wrong. It's because you're different. And people don't always know what to do with different. You don't follow the usual scripts. You think deeper. You feel wider. You ask questions that make others uncomfortable because they've never stopped to ask them themselves. You communicate with honesty, and you carry yourself with a unique blend of strength and sensitivity. That alone sets you apart. But being set apart often comes with a cost. You're misunderstood. Not because you're unclear, but because you don't fit inside the boxes others have built. You challenge expectations simply by being who you are. and people label what they can't define. Some say you're too quiet. Others say you're too intense. You may be called distant, complicated, guarded, or even strange, but deep down, you know it's not about you. It's about them trying to interpret you through their own limited lens. You don't match the patterns they're used to, and so their instinct is to mislabel what they don't understand. At times, this can feel isolating. You long for people who can see beyond the surface, who don't try to fix you or fit you into something easier to explain. You crave depth, but so many around you are content with shallow waters. That contrast creates tension, even when you try to bridge it with kindness. But don't let the misunderstanding shake you. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're living honestly. You're not tailoring yourself to fit someone else's comfort zone. And while that may cause friction, it also creates truth. And truth, even when it's lonely, is powerful. The irony is, those who misunderstand you often need what you carry the most. Your depth can teach others presence. Your quiet strength can bring peace. Your questions can spark transformation. But not everyone is ready for that. Some will resist. Some will walk away. Let them. What matters is that you keep showing up as yourself. Don't shrink to be digestible. Don't over-explain to earn acceptance. Let your life be the explanation. Let your consistency speak louder than their confusion. Over time, you'll find those who don't just tolerate your depth. They celebrate it. They won't be intimidated by your silence or confused by your insight. They'll lean in. They'll stay. And with them, you'll never need to translate yourself. Being misunderstood is not a weakness. It's evidence that you've chosen authenticity over imitation. It means you've refused to blend in for the sake of being liked. And in that refusal, you've honored who you truly are. So, when you're misunderstood, don't rush to fix it. Sit in the quiet confidence of knowing that the right ones will see you, not the image, not the assumption, but the truth. And that is enough. Would you like me to continue with key point 6 next? You seek growth, not perfection. You said, expand the 6 key point on the 500 words without how ChatGPT said absolutely. Here's the fully expanded version of key point 6. You seek growth, not perfection. Written in a grounded, motivational, and emotionally resonant tone, approximately 500 words and without the word how. You seek growth, not perfection. 500 words. You've stopped trying to look perfect, sound perfect, or live perfectly. And that choice has set you free, because at some point you realized perfection is a performance, not a destination. It's a trap that keeps people stuck in fear, comparison, and shame. But you chose a different pursuit. You chose growth. Growth is honest. It's messy. It requires self-awareness, patience, and courage. And you've embraced all of it. You no longer pretend to have it all together. You don't hide your flaws, failures, or doubts. Instead, you face them. You sit with them. You learn from them. This journey hasn't made you invincible, but it has made you real. You're not afraid to admit when you don't know something. You're not embarrassed to say, I'm still working on that. Because for you, progress matters more than presentation. You'd rather take imperfect steps forward than stay stuck in fear of not doing things flawlessly. You understand that growth requires friction. It doesn't come from easy roads or applause. It comes from trial, discomfort, reflection, and sometimes complete failure. But instead of breaking you, those experiences shape you. You take the lessons. You apply them. And then you rise again. People often mistake this mindset for weakness or lack of ambition. But the truth is, it takes deep strength to keep evolving. It takes discipline to keep showing up for yourself, especially when no one is watching. It takes humility to admit your limits and keep expanding them anyway. Perfection says, hide it. Growth says, heal it. Perfection says, be more like them. Growth says, become more of who you are. Perfection tries to protect the image. Growth transforms the soul. This choice shows up in how you treat others too. You don't expect perfection from them either. You give grace. You allow room for failure. You understand that everyone's growing at their own pace, and you meet people where they are, not where you think they should be. That mindset makes you a safe space. You're not here to judge. You're here to evolve, and you invite others to do the same. You offer truth without condemnation and encouragement without pressure, because you know that real transformation is slow, personal, and sacred. You also understand that growth never stops. There's always another layer to uncover, another weakness to confront, another gift to develop. And instead of being overwhelmed by that, you're inspired by it. You live with a teachable spirit, not because you're lacking, but because you're alive. You've chosen to be a student of your own life, to stay open, to keep moving. You're not striving for a perfect version of yourself. You're becoming a stronger, wiser, more whole version, day by day. So while the world glorifies the polished and flawless, you choose the raw and real, because growth will take you where perfection never can, into the fullness of who you were created to be.